Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me. And here I have a presentation because I want to share some activities that I've done with my students. And I have to say they work pretty well. So I think it's nice to share these things with other teachers. So first of all, the idea here is to share some things or some activities or different tasks with which students can use language, but creatively. I think that we have all been there, having students completing gaps in a text or maybe paraphrasing different like phrases and sentences. Sometimes we have a course book that we have to follow. Sometimes the school where we work expects us to do those very controlled activities because maybe our students have to sit for certain exams at the end of the year. So the idea today is to share some things that will act kind of like a mental break, let's say, because I feel like we're always as teachers telling students, if you want to suggest something, you have to use this structure right here. And if you want to ask a question, you have to put words in this order. And if you're going to write an email to a friend, you have to use contractions. But if you're going to write an email to a company, for example, you cannot do that. So I feel like our students are always learning and acquiring different rules and what we expect of them and what people in general expect of them whenever they use a new language, in this case, English. So I feel like doing that is fantastic because it teaches them exactly what they are here to learn or the reason why they decided to join one of our courses. But at the same time, I feel like they need a space where they can use English just creatively, because that is something that we don't always have in the classroom, but we do have it when we are outside. The thing is that students cannot always like travel, or if they can, they cannot always have a conversation with someone who is maybe a native speaker or who also speaks English, And I feel like we as teachers always have that thing, that idea that schools just kill kids' creativity. And we're always trying to give them rules and steps to follow. And when we do that, it's like we just make them follow certain procedures, and they are never allowed to be creative or to like think out of the box. So these are just some ideas that I have used that have helped me with that. So hopefully they will be useful for you too. Another thing that was very important for me is that I have worked with kids, with teens and adults, but I have realized, and I will include myself here, we all have a very short attention span. And if it comes to something that we find interesting or that we choose to do, fantastic. I mean, we can focus, we can work on something that's great. But sometimes, and especially for kids and teens, just sitting down and completing things, or gaps in a text, it's very difficult for them to actually focus on something for a long time. So I feel like also giving them the chance to use English for something that they find interesting and that they choose to do is going to help us teachers to, deal with this attention span crisis that we are currently having. So the very first activity is called social solutions. I have come up with a name for every activity. And by the way, you will see that we have like all the steps here. So if you happen to want the presentation after, I'll be happy to share it because you have like all the steps in case you want to use them with your students. So the first one is called social solutions. So we are going to give students like a space, not just to use English, but also to talk about the things that make them worry. So after the pandemic, especially, I feel like many kids now started spending more time on social media and the internet. And sometimes they read things or they watch certain videos and they're like, what is going on? In some places we have economic crisis, and in some other places we have wars. And what is going on? And I have to go to school, but I don't understand what's going on in the world. So there are lots of different things affecting our students. So I feel like this is also a nice space for them to talk about that. So the first step is to wake up. We're going to ask, this is the stage where a student is going to think about the problems that no one seems to be worrying about, you know? No one is doing anything about this issue, and I worry, I stress, I don't know what to do, I'm just a kid. So this is the time when they take some minutes and they think about the things that are happening in the world, and they just don't understand why, or why it is that no one is doing anything about that. Then something that we can do is we can ask students to work in groups. They can choose one of those problems or issues that we have today, and they are going to do some research on that. This is very important because it's going to help them develop their research skills. They have to say what the problem is, where where it is that issue or situation is taking place, why, what are the factors that are causing that. So it's interesting to have kids and teens especially to, you know, like working out like all the details there. And then what they are going to do is they are going to take some time to try to find solutions. And the important thing here is that there's nothing such as a impossible solution, because this is our classroom, this is a safe environment, so they can share all the ideas they want. So here, as you can see, as I was telling you before, they state the problem, they develop their research skills, and then they work together to find a solution. This is called problem-based learning, and it's very nice because it gives students something to think about. And sometimes they keep on thinking about this even when they go to their houses, and you know, maybe they have other subjects, but they are still thinking about that issue and what they can do, you know, to work on that. I know what you're thinking, it's very nice, but I have a syllabus and I have to focus on that. You know, my students are going to sit for exams at some point. So something that we can do is, depending on the age of our students, depending on the topics that we have been working with during the year, what we can do is maybe give them guiding questions, and maybe they can share their ideas using narrative tenses or present tenses, for example, when they describe the current situation that's affecting society, maybe. And then they can use, for example, future tenses or even conditionals when they share their solutions, their ideas, and how their ideas could maybe solve this problem, right? They can also use modal verbs, maybe to consider some possible outcomes, and fixed expressions like I believe, I think, we suggest, you know, the typical set of expressions that we always have there in the course book, but sometimes it's difficult to use them. So students can prepare an oral presentation to share their ideas on the conclusions they came up with, and they can use these expressions that are always there, but it's sometimes very difficult to use them, right? And here are some examples. There was one group, and they said that it was a problem. This happened with adults. They said they were tired of receiving emails during their weekend because it was a pandemic. You know, they really they needed to stop thinking about work just for 2 days, you know. So they came up with professional development courses to show teachers how to schedule emails. It was a very simple thing, but they had the chance to talk about something that made them, you know, stress, and it was something that was bothering them, but they never had a space to say, I'm tired of receiving emails, I want to rest. So you will see that different groups will have different problems. This is one that a group came up with. This was a group of teenagers. They have realized that after 2020, they spent like way too much time on social media. So they decided to create an app that would tell you when you have spent too much time, using your phone, and Instagram especially. So this is something that they came up with, and it's a very nice thing. It was a very nice idea. They did a lot of research, and they told me about all these apps that we have today and how you can use them. So again, it's a very nice thing to do. And also students have the chance to realize that lots of the things that make them worry or like stress at some points, other people think about that too. They are not alone. So it was a very nice thing to do, and you can do it in one lesson. So if you have like lots of things to cover during the year, you're not going to waste like a lot of time, doing something that's not maybe what your school expects you to do. So that was the first idea. Here we have another activity. So this one is connected to learning new things. As teachers, I feel like we all want our students to work on acquiring new skills, learning new things, not just English, which is our subject, but maybe other things too. So what we're going to do is we're going to give students pieces of paper, and they're going to take some minutes and think about something they really want to learn. They're going to write it on a piece of paper, and we're going to put everything in a bag. Once we have everything there, we're going to give out those papers, and we're going to make sure that students don't receive the paper that they wrote themselves, right? So now we are going to give them some prep time, and they have to do some research. They have to maybe watch some tutorials or videos. They can use those, those how-to wiki sites with like useful information. And they're going to prepare just a 5-10 minute presentation. It doesn't have to be very long. And what we can do is maybe so that we don't have, like 20 students just staring at one student who is sharing their ideas. We can ask students to work in pairs, and they can share, like a series of steps to work on certain skill or to learn something new. And this is the thing, depending on our group and how the things they enjoy doing or the things they have to work on, we can ask students to write a set of instructions. So for example, one of my classmates wrote on a piece of paper that they want to learn how to code. All right, so I'm going to look for instructions, I'm going to look for videos, I'm going to look for some tutorials, and based on that, I'm going to use my own words to write maybe a set of instructions to share with my classmates. Or maybe we can work in small groups. We can, like share all the things we've just learned so that other people can work on that skill too. And maybe we can vote for a favorite presentation, right? The one that was very clear, or the student who used very clear, who explained everything in a very clear way too. Students can work in pairs. Maybe you have students who like creating videos, and maybe they can make a TikTok or an Instagram reel sharing different steps or just steps to do something new. So it all depends on whether you are working face-to-face or online, but there are lots of things we can do with this activity. And here I wanted to show you another alternative. I was working with a group of adults, and they said that they were interested in learning new things. At the same time, they were very shy because they were adults, sometimes they don't want to expose themselves. So we used, this is a Google file documents, and they came up with different names like Mr. Banana or Amy, and they shared like a dream they had or something they always wanted to do, a skill they wanted to acquire. And then their classmates would leave comments with like tips or bits of advice so they could actually give that thing a try and work on that thing they always wanted to do. So again, there are lots of alternatives. And as you can see, that day, well, that month actually, we had been working on modal verbs. So I encouraged them to try to use them as much as possible to share, their ideas. And as you can see, it works pretty well. Maybe you can give them some guiding questions to make sure they use this the target language that you have been focusing on before. And I have to say, it's a very nice activity. So I really want to recommend it here today. Moving on, let's go to activity number 3. So we have this one, it's called Shout Out to the Old Me, because in general, growing up, has to do with leaving some things behind. In some cases, it's great because we leave behind some fears and insecurities we have. We give new things a try. So we like expand our comfort zone, right? Well, also, sometimes there are things that we used to do as kids that were fantastic. They were very entertaining. But now that we are adults, we just don't do that anymore. Or maybe teenagers, they just forget about certain games or toys or activities. They're like, no, I'm a teenager. I don't have time for fun things that I used to do as a kid, So I feel like it's a nice way to recycle language, work on English, but then at the same time, giving students like a mental break or a break. You can stop being an adult for like a minute. Like today, during this lesson, you can stop being an adult. You can go back, and feel like a kid again. So this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to have a brainstorming session, and we're going to brainstorm some of the things the kids usually do. It can be drawing, it can be sharing honest thoughts out loud, something that we don't do as adults anymore. Singing in public, I don't know, using toys. There are lots of different things that we don't do anymore, but at some point they were very fun and we really enjoy them. We're going to go back in time and we're going to ask our students to pick one of those things, of the many things that we're going to brainstorm. It has to be one of the things that brought them joy as while they were kids. And then we're going to analyze the past. We are going to ask them to do that thing for homework. Maybe they have to draw, they have to color something, and they are going to write a very short text or maybe a short paragraph. It depends on the level of your students. And they have to tell you how much they enjoy that as a kid, how often they did that thing, maybe how often they used to draw something, and why they think they stopped doing that at some point. If that made you so happy, why did you stop? We're going to ask them to do that, right? When you were a kid, you really enjoyed coloring something. So do it. Take 10 minutes of your day and do that thing that you really enjoy when you were a kid. Then they're going to reflect on how that made them feel. And they're going to maybe add a paragraph or write another text. They can make a video if they want, sharing, how they felt doing that again. And maybe they can, take a picture of that thing they did. Maybe if it's a work of art, they have to like bring something to show their progress or what their desk looked like when they were maybe drawing something or coloring something. And then when we see each other again, they're going to share that experience. It can be an oral presentation. It can be just, making some comments at the beginning of the lesson. It can be writing about that. It can be making a video. It can be writing a blog post. So again, there are lots of formats we can choose. There are lots of things we can do. There are lots of alternatives. but we are always going to be working on something that made them, feel like a kid again. This is an example. This is something that one of my students did. She started coloring some pictures. She printed them and started coloring them just like she used to do when she was a kid. And something that was very nice is that, as you can see, she said, I used to play with coloring books. So she was using used to, which is something that we had been working with for quite a while. And then she was using past tenses. When I was a kid, I printed this image. So they were having fun. They were, they took a break from being an adult and being a teenager and being a responsible student. And they still used their English. They were recycling language. So it was a very nice thing. And again, let's connect it a little bit to our lessons and the things we are expected to do as teachers. So we can work on used to and would, because our students are going to be, thinking about the things they used to do when they were kids. We can use narrative tenses. And again, we can take a mental break, but not a 10-minute mental break. A mental break from responsibilities and I have to do this and I have to be there. It's just, hey, what was something that I really enjoyed when I was a kid, so that kind of mental break. So again, it was a very nice activity and I really wanted to share it here. Moving on to activity number 4. I don't want to rush. I don't know if maybe there are questions. No, there are some very nice comments. Having fun is essential in education. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So moving on, we have this activity. It's called the Devil's Advocate. And this is a thing. I don't know if you have noticed this, but there are lots of things that we don't like. And we openly say we don't like them, but we have never done them or we have never tried them before. Have you realized that? Like, no, I don't like that kind of music. Do you know any musicians that make that kind of music? Or no, some kids are like, no, but I don't like that vegetable. Like, have you tried it? Do you know what it tastes like? Or certain activities. Sometimes students are like, no, I'm not into that. How do you even know? You have never tried it. So we're going to work on that. First of all, we're going to have, yet again, another brainstorming session, and we are going to ask students to make a list of the things they despise. I want a list of all the things you hate doing or that you don't like. We can go in categories, we can talk about music, we can talk about food, sports, types of people. So it may seem right now as if we were just, talking about random things. But if you have worked with vocabulary connected to music, you can talk about music. If you have worked with vocabulary connected to food and cooking, you can work on that too. So again, we can adapt this activity to the different things we are currently working on or focusing on with our students. Then we're going to have kind of like a getting to know you stage, because we're going to check how many of those things that students wrote down or how many things students have in common with other students. Maybe someone said, oh, I hate reggaeton music. I don't like it. And maybe someone else hates it too. So the idea is also to have students, getting to know each other a bit better. They can maybe report on their findings. I have realized that 5 people in this class, me included, we all hate broccoli, for example. So we can discuss those things too. And then we have like our third stage, in which we're going to face reality. They are going to either highlight or circle some of the things they have never actually tried, listen to, practice, whatever. And they are going to, pick from those things one. here we have an example. This is a picture of something that one of my students wrote. They said, I don't like healthy desserts. I don't like vegan food. I don't like helping my grandma fix her computer. She wrote down lots of things, but she realized that she was always saying she didn't like vegan food, but she had never tried it, but still she didn't like it. She knew she didn't like it, but she had never tried it before. So for homework, again, they had to try, practice, eat, do that one of the things that they have never actually tried, but for some reason they hate, So this activity also has to do not only with using English for something that's not, just completing gaps in a text, but also with trying new things and expanding your comfort zone and doing something different, because I feel like as teachers, especially when we're working with teenagers or kids, even adults, but especially people who are still in school, I feel like it's nice to show them that there are lots of things they have to try. There are lots of things they can experience. They don't have to, just stay with the things they are comfortable with. There are lots of things they can do. And I feel like it's our responsibility to sometimes, encourage them to try new things. So with homework, they have to actually listen to that song or try that workout, that they hate, or read that novel that everyone likes, but I don't, or watch that TV show that I can't stand, but you have never watched. So they're going to do that. It won't take long. Maybe it will take like an hour of their weekend. And then they are going to reflect on that. They can write a positive review of that thing or of that activity they hated so much. And then when we see each other again, they are going to either exchange, texts, like the things they wrote, their pieces of writing, or their experiences. Maybe we want them to share these things orally. Again, it depends on the level. It depends on what they feel more comfortable with. It depends on whether they have to sit for some kind of written or oral exam. We can adapt this again to whatever it is that they need to work on and their interests. And again, for the first time, they will have the chance to say, I used to think that this TV show, this novel, whatever, was bad. But now that I've tried it, I have to say that it's actually pretty cool. Or what could happen if they come back to class and they say, no, I just don't like it. But at least now they have experienced it, they have tried it, and they will be using English to share that. So again, it's a nice experience. And as teachers, I feel like it allows us to do something for students that goes beyond teaching grammar and vocabulary, So that was our fourth activity. And here we have our fifth and last activity. It's called A Bad TV Show. And this is the thing. Stranger Things is a TV show that I don't like. I have watched it. I have watched a couple of episodes. I have to say I just don't like it. I don't understand why so many people like, seeing a bunch of kids with supernatural powers. But that's all right. I just don't like it. But I have to say that one day I was, scrolling through my phone, using social media as usual, and I found this picture. And I said, wow, it looks pretty cool. And it even wants me, or it even makes me want to check out the show because it looks pretty cool. Someone did all that, someone planned that. So this is the thing. We are going to work on this activity is better maybe for writing, to work on writing skills. So we are going to start with a model analysis, the course books that we use or that we are generally given at schools. or if you don't have a course book, there are lots of nice texts and activities we can get from the internet. And we can analyze a review with our students so that we can work on the different parts a review has. There is an introduction, there is some kind of description going on. Maybe we're going to describe what the movie or TV show is about. We are going to use different vocabulary items to describe the setting, the characters, the sound effects. We're going to use different vocab items that maybe we don't use on a day-to-day basis, right? And we're also going to work maybe with some expressions to either recommend something or not. So we're going to work on that. Then we're going to get ready. We can brainstorm some good ideas to include when they write. So for example, it can be something like character description. It can be something like describing the setting and why it is so important in the film or TV show that we have watched. We can make like a list of things that our students can use when they write. And I feel like it will be a nice way to guide them, as they write, because sometimes they're like, I just run out of ideas. So maybe we can make a list before we even start. And then we're going to give them some time to write. They have chosen the TV show or movie they are interested in. They have these ideas they can write about, all of these elements they can describe, and they can always go back to that model they have with, all right, how can I introduce my ideas? How can I develop them? How can I, give this thing a conclusion? And we're going to do the following. Instead of correcting things ourselves, what we're going to do before, we are going to correct it, don't worry, we are going to do that. But before, something that we can do is use, this is how I organize things, but maybe you want to do it in a different way. Again, it depends a lot on the group you're working with. But something that I like doing is I ask students to exchange their pieces of writing. And here they have kind of like a list of things they have to focus on, which would be like the things that we as teachers focus on. Whether the ideas were relevant to the question, if they had given examples, how they developed their ideas, whether the register they used was, appropriate for this piece of writing, how they decided to organize all the ideas they have, if they used connectors or not, and how they used them, and then the language they use. Did they use like structures, the same structures they always use, or did they decide to take a risk and use this new grammatical structure that we have been working with these past weeks, for example? So this is an example of how it works. This is something that students did. They had to, as you can see, here they have like a set of items to focus on. And they had to highlight them in yellow if they thought there was something that could be improved. And they also had to write how their classmates could work on that. So the idea was also to give their classmates a hand too. And then they had to highlight in green the things that they thought were very nice. Like, hey, you did a great job. And here they also, as you can see, they also had to include the reason why they thought they did a good job. For example, here someone wrote, you develop your ideas in 3 paragraphs. No paragraph is longer than the others. So this is something they had here. And, this is a nice way, not just to start helping their classmates, but also to start thinking about the things that we expect from them. So next time they write, they will be like, oh, I remember that I have to develop my ideas in a clear way. I remember that I could include some examples to make sure that everything's clear. So little by little, this will help them, not just when it comes to, understanding what it is that we want from them, but also when it comes to writing and developing ideas and so on. So now that we have worked on writing, they have corrected their ideas, then we can add our comments here, right? Maybe their classmate missed something and we can add it here to make sure that our students have a lot of, positive feedback or lots of things to work on. And then we're going to do the following, and this is my very favorite part. We're going to tell our students that they are part of the marketing and advertising department at Netflix, and they have to create either an ad, or if you have some tech-savvy students, maybe they can create a teaser, putting all the elements that characterize this show in a way that will make people want to see it. Kind of like the picture that I showed you before, this one right here. So they can create an image, they can create a teaser, they can maybe come up with like a short text, with the things they would say if they could create like an ad. They can even film that and then share it with their classmates too. So again, there are lots of formats and things we can do. And the idea here, again, is to have fun. You will see that students will have to use English to do this, and they will have a lot of very nice, very interesting vocabulary items and structures to use from the writing activity we had completed before. So this was, again, a very simple activity. But it was a very fun one. Students had fun doing this. And again, I had to share it here because it worked pretty well. And once again, let's connect it with the things that we are expected to do as teachers. They can use present tenses to write about the storyline. They can use vocabulary connected to movies, TV show, business, advertising. Depending on what you're working on, you may want to ask them to focus on different things. They can even use passive voice to tell us who the film was directed by, who wrote the book, that they read, or that the film is based on, or the TV show is based on. So again, there are lots of things we can do. And we have another activity. I will share this one very quickly. So let's close with this one. This was our fourth activity. And now, yes, let's go to the very last one. This is something that's very nice to do at the very beginning of the year, so that students can really see how much they improve throughout the year. So first of all, we are going to focus, we are going to try to find relevant events. And when I say relevant, I mean something that we know our students will be interested in. We're going to work on comprehension. Maybe we want to bring a video, explaining something that's going on right now, and we're going to work on listening comprehension. Maybe we want to bring like a news item, and we're going to work on reading comprehension. So the drill. We can work on vocabulary if there are new words, new expressions that our students could use. And we're going to do the following. We can either like stick, this news item like on a poster and leave it in the classroom, or we can use Jamboard too if we are teaching online. And what we can do is maybe give students some guiding questions so they can leave their ideas in connection to this thing that's currently going on. And this is the thing. This is something that I used with a group of adults. And this is something that I used with a group of teenagers. So we read the news item, we worked on vocabulary, we worked on comprehension, and I gave students some questions. I also asked them, maybe they had their own questions, or they could bring, their own ideas. And this is what we did. It was an online lesson in my case. So we used Jamboard. And they used a different post-it notes to share their ideas. Here we have a singer, they all love her. And it was an article on how she was able to release an entire album from lockdown. So as you can see, students said things like, she will come to Argentina and I will go to see her. you know. She is always going to a new place to write different songs, for example. So we have lots of different ideas they came up with. And this is the nice part. In the future, maybe you can leave this on Jamboard, or you can leave this, you know, on a poster. And some month after that, you can go back to it. You can have a special lesson when you just in which you just go back to these things that your students wrote before. And what we can do is ask them to read their predictions, their ideas, their comments, and we can discuss whether those things actually happened. Did she come to Argentina? Did you go to see her? What happened? You know, so we can work on that. That can be a very nice speaking session. And then another thing that you can do is that, or another thing that will happen, is that students will realize how much they have learned. Because, for example, there was a news item talking about something. It was this one, and it was about like a rocket and something that people in the US were going to do and stuff. And students were like, the rocket will, you know, take off in November because of this, this, and that. And later on, when they read that, they said, wait, I have a lot of evidence to say this. So maybe instead of using will, I can use going to. Why? Because during the year, we worked with future tenses, and they realized that there are different structures that they can use to make sure that what they are saying is more precise, so that it's clearer for other people. So you will see that little by little, as you go back, students will be able to either correct themselves or add more information, or maybe just they can paraphrase their ideas using other structures or other vocabulary items that are going to make everything more clear, more precise. And it's also very nice for them to say, wow, look at all these things that I've learned during the year. Or look at this progress. Now I am able to correct myself or to improve the things that I've done some months ago. So it's nice for us as teachers to have students realize all the things they have achieved during the year. So now, yes, that was the very last activity. So thank you very much. If you happen to want the presentation, I'll be more than happy to share it so that you have all those steps if you want to follow them with your students. And there's my Instagram account in case you happen to need more ideas or low prep activities. I'm always sharing new things there, so feel free to check it out.
Thank you so much, Pilar, for your presentation. Unfortunately, we do not have time for the questions because we have to get ready to join our keynote speaker, Darren Parrott. If Pilar, if you will send me anything, any handouts that you would have for people, we will post the link to them on our website. Because guys, perfect, please don't put your email addresses there. Maybe you're not interested in privacy. I'm not putting mine. I am interested. But we will make sure that we're going in a couple of days. We will have this recording uploaded to our website. You'll go to the conference schedule, and instead of the Zoom link, it will be the link to the video. Also, the link will be on our YouTube channel. And in about a week, we will publish the conference proceedings with an ISSN thing, so you can say that you're in a ranked journal. And we will have the link for that for you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pilar. We are so happy that you're here, and we hope that you will join us again. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you. Thanks for having me.